Hey friends, before the episode begins, we have an exciting announcement to make. We are officially having our first ever podcast cruise.
Yay!
If you are interested in sailing with us and sailing with lots of other fun DCL podcast friends and family, you can join us on the July 18th to 23rd, 2026 sailing on the Disney Destiny. Knock out that brand new ship. Christy, where can our listeners go to book this sailing?
You can reach out to me at Christy@packyourpixiedoes.com. You can go to my website and go to the contact me section, and there's a form you can fill out and just give your information and we'll reach out and we'll get you booked. This is a 5-night Caribbean cruise to Cozumel and to Castaway Cay, 2 sea days, which is exciting.
Yes, we are so excited. We are so excited to welcome you all aboard the Destiny with us. So we do hope that you consider joining us for this sailing. As we said, we are still working through the nitty-gritty of the details, but reach out to Christy to book, or if for whatever reason you are booked on this sailing or have booked this sailing, reach out to just let us know that you want to be part of the group. We will definitely be doing different meetups through the lounges. It's going to be just a genuinely, absolutely great time. So we hope you consider joining us. And with that, we will be on to the show.
Well, hello and welcome once again to the DCL Podcast, where we're inviting you to sit back, relax, and we'll be on our way shortly.
Well, welcome back to the DCL Podcast, your podcast to cruise a little smarter. I am flying solo because, unshockingly to most, Christy is on a cruise, and then she gets off that cruise and goes back on another cruise like 2 days later. So I am rolling solo this week, but that is okay because we have another exciting show. First-time cruisers with us, and then we also are talking about a Marvel Day at Sea, which I feel like we have not talked about in such a long time. Does make sense because they are typically that late winter, early spring cruises, but all the more exciting to discuss here. With that, I would like to welcome to the show Kyle. Kyle, how are you today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Doing pretty good. Thanks for asking. Well, why don't we go ahead and start off with your Disney and cruising background?
Yeah, sure. I guess for cruising background, I was my first cruise in general. So this was my first cruise. For Disney background, I guess I've been going to Disney ever since, I was young. I would say, I think when I was 5, it was my first time going to Disney. And this was back when Hollywood Studios was MGM Studios. And I do remember it vividly because I was really excited for that Power Rangers meet and greet back in the day. Ever since then I guess 10 years after-ish, we had our first Disney bubble vacation. So it was our first, staying on property at Disney World. We even did the dining plan, and it was from there my family has been hooked on doing, Disney vacations. And ever since then, we've been to, Walt Disney World, stayed at different resorts. We've been to Disneyland Resort in California. We've been to Aulani. We've also been to Vero Beach in Florida, and we've also been to Tokyo Disneyland. Extensive Disney background, I guess.
Awesome. Very well traveled in the various Disney bubbles there. I love that. I would love to get out to Tokyo Disneyland, Disney Sea someday. It is definitely on the list. Well then, what drew you to Disney Cruise Line?
My first Disney trip on my own was back in 2023, and as I was preparing for this trip, I was watching a lot of vloggers, and preparing for this trip was back in 2022. And as we know, in 2022, the Disney Wish came out. So all those same vloggers that were showing up in my feed started, posting stuff about the Disney Wish. Basically, from there, I got really interested in doing a Disney cruise, even though at the time I wasn't really thinking that I would be into cruising just because of fear of motion sickness and all those kinds of things. But those vloggers really sold it because I got really interested in, possibly doing a cruise. And then from there, I also started listening to different cruising podcasts also. So that's how I ended up landing on eventually doing this cruise.
And for our guests, would you let them know what cruise you booked and who sailed with you?
Yeah, sure. So I ended up booking a Marvel Day at Sea cruise on the Disney Dream, which was 5 nights. And I cruised with my friend Josh, who I like to call him my Disney lackey. He likes to travel along with me when I'm trying to do all these different Disney things.
Love it. And did you specifically book this cruise because it was a Marvel Day at Sea, or was it one of those happenstance, well, it's Marvel, so that's cool? And are you a big Marvel fan?
Yeah, so I am a pretty big Marvel fan. Like I said, like with The Wish earlier, the Marvel restaurant and The Wish is something that I, hope to try eventually. But it was more of like, because of also just fear of motion sickness, if this cruise was going to be like a one and done, I just wanted to go all out. So I really, really, really want to do a Marvel Day at Sea cruise, which is why I ended up with this one.
And this was a sailing out of Fort Lauderdale, correct?
Yes, it was sailing out of Port Everglades in Fort Lauderdale.
Well, let's start at the beginning. How did you get to the port and how did you get to Florida?
Yeah, so the day before, we flew in the day before, but we actually flew into West Palm Beach because we just wanted to visit some friends there in West Palm Beach first. So that Friday evening and then Saturday morning, we just spent our time there, hung out in that area. And then around 11:15, we drove down to Port Everglades. It was about a 45 to 15-minute drive, so it wasn't actually that bad. And there was not that much traffic either.
What was your experience getting to the port and getting on board?
Yeah, so when we got to the port, we first had to drop off our rental car. Unfortunately, we picked a rental car place that didn't have a shuttle to the port. So when we dropped off the car, we ended up having to Uber anyway. But that was okay. It wasn't that expensive of an Uber. With the Uber getting to the port was just really, really exciting being able to see the ship.
Yeah, what was that feeling like? Had you ever seen a Disney Cruise Line ship before?
So when I visited Miami, I think 2 years ago, when we drove to Miami Beach, I think the Magic was docked in port that day. And I guess that also, I got some serious FOMO seeing a Disney ship port. And, I guess it helped fuel my need to do a Disney cruise. That would be my first time. But then being able to see the dream was just so exciting. I kept making this joke that it was like a fever dream because it was just really, it felt, like something that I was dreaming for a really long time, being able to see the dream on port.
Love it. Well, you get to the port. How was that embarkation experience? Was there anything you felt like you weren't prepared for in that process?
So I guess preparation wise, I kind of knew what to expect for embarkation day. And, knowing that we were first time cruisers, I knew check-in was going to take time, even with booking also, being first time cruisers, I'm not expecting too much, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But on the day of, it was really, really quick, I guess, if I could sum it up. Yeah, I was when I was looking through my pictures, I think we got there around the port 12:30, which was our port arrival time, but we were on the ship by 1 p.m. So it was very, very quick.
I love that. And I actually love that you said you didn't, set your expectations super, super high. Because we've had people on the show, and you've even seen it on vlogs and stuff before, where that embarkation day is so hyped, but people have such a high expectation, such a high plan for how that first day is going to go, that sometimes any little kind of tip on that iceberg there will just cascade their day into chaos. So I love that you kind of kept it open. We're ready to go with the flow with that. But we go through, your embarkation process is smooth, and you were boarding the Disney Dream for the first time. What was that feeling like?
Again, it was the same way when I saw the ship. It was just as if I was living a dream because, we get into the atrium, they announce our names, and then they have the Donald statue there, which I've seen in so many vlogs, so many Instagram posts. And then also the Marvel Day at Sea backdrop was also there. And it was just a moment that I've been waiting for a really long time. So it was great.
Sailing with you and a friend, did you stop and do the pictures, or did you kind of just bypass that and get right on the ship to get going?
So we did bypass that to get on the ship. I guess that's why it was a lot quicker than I anticipated, because we were we don't really need to, take pictures. And the line for pictures was pretty long. So I guess that could be a reason why we were able to get on the ship pretty quick.
Awesome. Well, you get on board. Where do you guys head first?
Yeah, so first we kind of just walked around the atrium just to see, everything on deck 3. We saw all the different characters that were meeting and greeting, which was also really, really cool. And then immediately we were we need to go eat. So we headed up to Cabanas for lunch.
What kind of stateroom did you both book, and how did you feel about those accommodations?
Yeah, sure. So we booked a standard veranda room midship on the starboard side. When I initially booked it, it was mainly just for price really. And then also, again, fear of motion sickness. I've heard that, the midship and lower is, better for a first time cruiser, which is why I ended up going with that. But the room was actually just really, really nice. Our view from the veranda was really I guess, perfect, I guess you could say. No obstructions. It was really, really nice. The size of the room was really, really good. We were able to, fit our bags under the bed. The bed was extremely comfortable. I'll say that because I was staying on the queen bed and then my friend was using the pull-out bed, the couch bed thing, I guess.
Yeah, there's no place I nap better than on a Disney Cruise Line bed, I will tell you. Did you do the sail away party then?
Yeah, so I guess I could say like we went to our room, after lunch before the muster drill. Then after muster drill, after hearing things from podcasts and vlogs, you got to rush up to deck 11 and 12 for the sail away party. So I think our muster drill was on deck 4, and then from there we literally just booked it up the stairs all the way to deck 12 to be able to see the sail away party.
What'd you think of the sail away party?
It was everything that I thought it was going to be. It was a really, really fun. It's like a really good way to start off your vacation, if I had to say so. Like I think as soon as that, the song on the Dream was being played, which I've heard, in vlogs, but it still just looked like a big smile on my face. And then especially when with that countdown and then they play the horn, it just feels like you can like not stress for 5 days.
There's something great about that countdown and the you are officially on vacation that just makes everything feel right. Well, we are going to kind of segment this by section and talk about entertainment, dining, activities. Before we get into that, though, you did mention a couple times that you were worried about the motion sickness of the ship. What did you do to kind of be prepared for that? And did you feel like it affected you during the sailing?
Yeah, so, I packed everything from like motion sickness medicine to like different mints. I had mint gum. I brought on board like C-bands to wear, all purely just in case. But I will say that I don't think I had any problems at all. I don't think I had to take any motion sickness medicine or use like the C-bands that I brought. There was at one point where, we could feel the ship rocking, but I guess at that point I've just gotten adjusted to the ship that I didn't really have any problems.
Yeah, luckily on some of these shorter cruises, there's not a whole lot of the ship doing going, especially once you get over in the Bahamas area and Castaway. A lot of times you kind of just float around. So you can have some very smooth sailings, luckily. Well, why don't we stick with around the ship? Why don't you go ahead and just discuss kind of your overall thoughts on the Dream and kind of what you enjoyed about the ship?
Yeah, so I guess the Dream, I would say, was a really good sized ship. I've seen from different videos and pictures of like the Wish and how it's like really big and really, I guess gigantic, I guess you could say. But I just felt like the Dream was it wasn't like too small, but it was also like big enough where you didn't feel crowded at times, but you definitely like could still find your way around pretty easily. Like it was very easy to know where this restaurant was, where this lounge was, where, if you wanted to do this character meet and greet, it was very easy to navigate.
Love it. Well, let's move into entertainment. The only thing we won't hit on quite yet is the Marvel Day at Sea stuff. We'll lump that all together. What activities did you or were you able to pre-book before you got on board?
Yeah, so for activities that we booked before we got on board, again, I wasn't really expecting much since we were first-time cruisers with the booking window. And also, we don't drink alcohol, so we weren't like looking to do any, alcohol tastings. But with the fear of it possibly being a one and done, I did want to try and book brunch. So, which initially we weren't able to get. So, but then randomly, I just kept checking the app, and then randomly on the day where I was just waiting at a coffee shop, I checked to see if there was availability, and there was availability, and I immediately booked it. So we were able to get full brunch, and then for Marvel Day at Sea, I think it's 30 days before the cruise, there you also need to book like specialty Marvel character meet and greets. So there were like 3 different ones. So it's like Marvel HQ, which was just Iron Man and Spider-Man, and then the Guardians and the Asgardians. So those were also things that I had to book before the cruise. Just I guess a little tip for that. I didn't realize you don't have to do all the specialty meet and greets. The actual Marvel Day at Sea, they're actually available throughout the entire cruise. So I initially booked all 3 of them on that Marvel Day at Sea, and then I realized I could actually change it and like lessen the load of that day.
Is that what you did then? You changed it and kind of spread some of the specialty characters out through the cruise?
Yeah, so like I think we did HQ and the Guardian. Yeah, we did HQ and the Guardians on the actual Marvel Day at Sea in the morning, and then we booked the Asgardians on our second sea day.
What other activities did you get up to aboard the ship Did you kind of scroll through the app and heart certain things that sounded interested to you? Was there anything that you enjoyed more than you thought you would or thought you wouldn't have enjoyed and ended up really liking?
Definitely trivia was something that I didn't think I would get into, but on our second C day, I think we only did trivias, like back-to-back trivias the whole day. I think it just comes from we really wanted to get one of those medals, but then also it's like when you're doing all these trivias, you know who's really, really good at trivia. And sometimes you see them walk in and you're like, oh no, I don't think this is gonna be it.
Yeah, when I did my Marvel Day at Sea, they did Marvel trivias like the whole cruise. Same person won every single time. And he wore all of his medals the whole cruise. So at the end of them, he had like 6 or 7 of them just hanging. I was like, that's the Marvel trivia guy.
I think in terms of also just other activities, we also like did the open houses. So, we just wanted to see like the Oceaneers Club, Edge, Vibe, and also seeing those kids clubs. It really made me be like, dang, I really wish I kind of grew up on DCL because the Edge and Vibe are really, really cool. And then just the Oceaneers Club in general was really, really cool.
Yeah, they really did something special with those spaces. Again, something I certainly was never able to take advantage of, so I only get to see on open houses. Well, why don't we turn towards the shows then? Did you get to see any of the shows on board?
Yeah, so being it was our first cruise, we did want to see all the shows. So on the first night was the Golden Mickeys, which was okay. We also heard some things about it that, it's the one that you can skip, but since, it was our first cruise, you just want to see it to see what it's like. And then the second day was the Marvel stuff. We can talk about that later. Then the third night was the Pirate Night. And then it was the fourth night was Beauty and the Beast. And Beauty and the Beast was it was really, really good. Everyone always talks about Beauty and the Beast and like you have to see it. But that was very, very exciting. And then on our last day, I think it was Believe. A lot of people also say Believe is like a meh show, but I actually enjoyed it. I guess it was because our genie was really, really, really good. Like he was very, very funny. It was just unfortunate that with Believe, there was 2 technical difficulties in the show. So instead of a 1-hour show, it ended up being like an hour and a half. But
No, that stinks. I'm glad you enjoyed Beauty and the Beast. It's one of my favorites of the shows I've seen on board DCL for sure. Well, why don't we turn towards dining then? Were you early or late dining?
Yeah, so we chose late dining because again, we're just 2 mid-20s adults with no kids, so there was no reason for us to have early dining. But yeah, so we were late dining, and since there were also a party of 2, right? We're probably gonna end up with random people, right? I don't know how Disney does it, but we ended up getting grouped with a couple from Colorado who were also in their mid-20s, who were also one of them it was also their first cruise also. So there was a lot of similarities there. And then we actually ended up hanging out with them a lot. We ended up doing some of the trivias with them. And by the end of the cruise, we ended up having a group chat. So, I guess it's just the way Disney does it.
Yeah, it can be a lot of fun when Disney gets those groups just right. We still just talk to the people that we sat with at our dinner on our very first Disney cruise. And it's fun seeing sometimes they're still hopping on Disney cruises as well and seeing this is what you got to do, or, excited to see what you're getting to on board. So it is really special sometimes when you get that good dining group. Well, overall, what did you think of dining? What was your favorite restaurant of the 3, and what was the highlight meal for you?
Yeah, so I guess for dining, if we were talking about the main 3 restaurants, I would have to go with Royal Palace. I think was my favorite. So I think Royal Palace was on our first day. So our first night was Royal Palace, and then after that it was the Marvel menu at still at Royal Palace. And then Animators for Pirate Night, and then Animators, and then Enchanted Garden. I guess at Royal Palace, my favorite thing there had been the deep fried brie appetizer. That was, people say it's good, but when you actually eat it, it's actually really, really good. And then also there, I think the French onion soup was also really, really good there.
Hard to go wrong with breaded deep fried cheese, I'll tell you what, but that brie is so, so good. Definitely a favorite of ours as well. Overall, being a first-time cruiser, and it sounds like you did quite a bit of research before getting on board, how did the food on board fall within your expectations?
So I've heard, things of like, it's kind of like banquet food, because, they have to mass produce all the food. But even then, I didn't think I wouldn't call it banquet food. Like, I actually thought it was pretty good. I guess it also just goes with our server, because our server was really, really good at getting us our food really, really quick. And just in general, I think I wouldn't, say it was banquet food to the point where it's like you don't think it's, good for Disney standards, but still think the food was really, really good.
Awesome. Love to hear it. Well, we also have specialty dining. You mentioned that you were able to secure that coveted Palo Brunch reservation. How was Palo Brunch?
This also goes back to, fear of motion sickness. If this cruise was going to be a one and done, that I, wanted to go all out, which is why I wanted brunch. So, and unfortunately, our Palo Brunch was on our Marvel Day at Sea, just because that's when they were offering it. But I didn't want to, again, I just wanted to do it. So, but for, Palo Brunch, everyone talks about it being like this amazing experience. And I will have to agree with them that it was, a very awesome experience, it's, not just dining, it is like a full-blown experience there. And going into Palo Brunch, I did say like, I have to try everything. Like I need to try at least a little bit of every part of the menu, even though a lot of people say don't do that, but I still wanted to get to try everything.
What was your favorite item from brunch?
Yeah, so in Palo Brunch, I just have to go with the almond croissant first. Yeah, the almond croissant was really, really good. That was also another, recommendation that I've heard, that the almond croissant at Palo Brunch is really, really good. I had the chicken parm, which was also really, really good. I'm from New Jersey, so I'm around a lot of Italian food, but that chicken parm was really, really good. And then for dessert, the panna cotta and espresso gelato with chocolate cake, those two were so good as well. And of course, by the end of it, we're like so full, and yet we still managed to get through those two desserts.
Well, that is doing Palo Brunch right, though, is trying as much as you can and being as full as you can. Love the panna cotta, love the chicken parm as well. Two of my go-to and favorites for sure. It's been a while since someone's discussed the almond croissant, though, so I'm glad you brought that up.
We were joking that as good as the almond croissant was, that was probably what killed us at the end, with how heavy it was. And at the beginning, you're hungry. It was really, really good at the beginning, and then by the end of it, you're like, oh, I wanted to try more, but I just don't have any more room.
Yeah, it definitely can be hard to squeeze it all in. You've got such good choices between the breakfast and the lunch style items. Just goes to show that you got to go back and try more.
Yes, definitely.
Well, let's get into the star of our show here, Marvel Day at Sea. I know we also talked about some of the characters you were able to meet on other days, but we will lump all of the Marvel Sea all into one conversation here. Why don't you kind of just walk us through your day for this one? Marvel Day at Sea is pretty much a full day experience, and then some of those character meet and greets do spread out, but they really have all sorts of shows going on all day. They have a main show in the theater, you get the fireworks and the show in the evening, as well as a special menu. Yeah, walk us through your day.
Yeah, sure. So I will say, Marvel Day at Sea could also be called like Ultimate Super Marvel Marathon Day, because there was just so much Marvel going on that day, which was perfectly fine with me being a Marvel fan. At the start of my day, I went outside and they're just blasting Marvel music in the hallways, in the atrium, everywhere on the ship. It's just Marvel music, from the movies. We started our day off with room service breakfast, actually, since, we were going to have Palo that day. So we just wanted to, have a nice light breakfast. And that was also like a little, I guess, bucket list thing of mine, just to have room service on the veranda on a cruise, which since this was our, first full day, that's what we wanted to do. And then afterwards, we went to have our first character meet and greet, which was with Spider-Man and Iron Man. We got there exactly at our time. I don't know if you were able to go earlier than our time, but so we just went exactly on our time. We met Iron Man, Spider-Man, which was really, really fun. And then Spider-Man also hinted at the Heroes Unite show at the end of that day, which was really, really cool. And then after that, we immediately had to go and meet Gamora and Groot. So I guess it was the Guardians. And I think for the Guardians, it could be Gamora or Groot or Star-Lord, and then any of those two pairings. I'm kind of hoping we would get Star-Lord and Groot. I guess the main one I really wanted was to meet Groot. So that was really, really cool. And even getting but it was just something about shaking Groot's hand, which is really, really cool and really, really fun. So then after we met Gamora and Groot, they did have the baby race on Marvel Day at Sea. And because it was, the Marvel Day at Sea, it was a Marvel themed baby race. The mat had different Marvel characters for different lanes, and then each baby was representing one of the characters, which is really, really cool. With the baby race, I guess this just goes to, the craziness that is Marvel Day at Sea. So the character Shang-Chi was watching the baby race. He was just there. I think we were watching it from either deck 4 or 5, looking into the atrium. And Shang-Chi, we could see Shang-Chi, and I was like, is that Shang-Chi? And my friend was like, no, I think there's just someone dressed up. But then someone near us was like, no, no, that's Shang-Chi. I saw him like doing a formal meet and greet earlier. And I was like, if he's just there and no one's really noticing him, like everyone was, well, I guess everyone was just so focused on the baby race that no one noticed that there's a character meet and greet right behind them. That was just something that I thought that was really, really cool. The amount of like character roaming on Marvel Day at Sea was like insane. In Walt Disney World, there's not really that much character roaming except in like Galaxy's Edge. And then, Disneyland, there is a lot of character roaming. The extent of character roaming on the Marvel Day at Sea was actually just insane.
I had never heard of them making the Baby Race Marvel theme for a Marvel cruise. I love that. I think that's brilliant. And the fact that they have a specialty mat and everything for it is really cool. But yes, especially in that atrium area, those characters kind of all in all those different levels, it feels like you're all constantly looking up being like, oh, who's coming out up there? Oh, there's someone out down there now. What were some highlight characters that you got to meet kind of just roaming around like that?
Yeah, so I mean, there were just so many. Some of them I didn't really get to meet until like, there's some characters where there's no line and then you get to say hi. And then there's also characters that end up drawing like a giant crowd. Just a really funny story with that is like, I think it was Captain America, Sam Wilson, and I think it was Ms. Marvel. They were like drawing, a big crowd on deck 4 near shutters. And I'm just like coming up or down the stairs. Out of nowhere, Kate Bishop rounds the corner, looks at the crowd, and then looks back at me and like, just other people that are near me. And she's like, I'm not getting involved with that. And then walks out onto the promenade deck on deck 4. And I was just so, I guess, shocked that I had no time to like take a picture or anything with her. Cause I was like, it was just so unexpected, the amount of character roaming and character meet and greets that happened. There was also like Hawkeye. He was just there hanging out with like 2 teenage looking kids. And he was just there, just talking to them, talking about archery. And I just thought that was really, really cool. For like roaming characters, I never got to like stop and take a picture because there was just so much going on. But I did, we did end up taking a lot of like formal meet and greet pictures.
And they also have quite a few different activities, as well as did they do the Doctor Strange show in the theater as well?
Yeah, so they did have the Doctor Strange show in the theater. That was really cool. We were a little bit late to it because we were literally just coming from Palo, but it was also another thing that like I had to go see. And that was really, really cool. The effects were really, really cool. They also had the USO show, which was really, really cool. Yeah, so that was also another thing that like I knew was gonna happen. I was like, I have to go see it. Like it's like one of those really, really cool things. With Captain America too. Oh, there was also this was actually one of my favorite parts. The costume event thing that they do on board for Marvel Day at Sea, where they like, you go out there, you show off your costume because it's Marvel Day at Sea, everyone's like dressed up. It's maybe one of the only things that I regretted not dressing up. I had like Marvel like gear on, but not like a full-blown costume. But basically, they were grouping people by, they had like all the Loki variants, then they had like Spider-Man, then they had Deadpool, they had the Guardians, like things like that. So they're grouping it either by character or by team. And then at the end of the event, which was really, really cool, they brought up all the kids in their costumes and they were like, the heroes of tomorrow, blah. And then when they did that, Mickey and his friends come out in their Marvel outfits to take a picture with the kids and then do a Marvel meet and greet. And that was really, really, really cool. The Mickey, especially in his Captain America outfit, was something which I've seen, in pictures and stuff. I was like, I had to get a picture with Captain America Mickey. And just because we were on deck 4, where we were on deck 4 watching the costume show thing, because of where we were actually like one of the first people in line to get a picture with Mickey and Minnie just by luck of where we were standing. So that was really, really cool.
That's awesome. Yeah, I don't think I got to see if they had done it at the time. My Marvel Day at Sea was like 2022, I think. So it's been quite a while. So I never got to see like the Mickey Minnie in their costumes, I think until the stage show. But the USO show was definitely one of the highlights of our Marvel Day at Sea. I loved that. I thought that was one of my favorite activities of that day.
Yeah, unfortunately, we got there like 15 minutes before it was going to happen because, that's when they get the notification on the navigator. So by the time we got to Evolution for the show, it was really, really packed. So I would say if you were going to go see it, maybe go a little bit earlier than 15 minutes because, Evolution is not that big of a space.
Was there anything else other than the evening show that you got up to on this day?
Also, we did see like the Mickey and Friends superhero show, the one that happens before the one with the fireworks. And then that was actually also really, really cute because it was kind of like the pirate show where they do a bunch of like dances and stuff. So I thought that was really, really cool getting to see. And also just the moment where they're all like posing with the Avengers theme song in the background. I just thought that was really amazing.
Yeah, another good way to see the Disney characters in their Marvel outfits. I think for me, the highlight of Marvel Day at Sea is that nighttime show along with the fireworks. What were your expectations for that, and did you enjoy it?
Yes. Oh, okay. Like Heroes Unite, I will say it's like you're in a Marvel movie, I would have to say. I will also admit that I did spoil myself when I was watching vlogs and stuff of seeing what the show was going to be like. It was still like really, really good. And I was really, really excited to see it in person. I will say that like because of what I saw in vlogs, I knew like being on the port side is actually better in this case. I know everyone says for like the pirate fireworks, you want to be on the starboard side so you can see the fireworks shoot off. But in the Heroes Unite show, they just like they incorporate the fireworks in the show so well that like I feel like being on the port side really elevates the experience when I was like watching the show. I guess, okay, spoiler alert here, but like when Strange is fighting the Scarlet Witch, they're using fireworks as if that's the spells they're throwing at each other. Or when like Iron Man and Captain Marvel are like flying off the ship, they like shoot a fireworks. That's what it's supposed to be. Ending, also spoiler alert, when like there's a Kree fleet and it's getting blown up by like Ms. Marvel or Captain Marvel, that's what the fireworks are. So I just thought that was really, really cool the way they incorporated the fireworks into the show.
Yeah, I think that is one of the best deck shows. Just the level of intricacy and also like some of the acrobatics, like Spider-Man climbing up the funnel and all of that. It just is really cool and a little bit more in depth than what you see even at like the Pirate Night show. Like it's just a very unique and awesome show.
Yeah, like I joked that like the little fight show that they have on Avengers Campus where like I think it's like Taskmaster comes in to like steal something from the Avengers compound, like that alone, I was like, ooh, like that gave me chills watching that. You can imagine like watching this show where there's a full blown like Avengers Assemble moment on stage and then they're fighting all the villains. It was just amazing.
Well, sadly, that about wraps up your Marvel Day at Sea. Was there anything else you got up to that you wanted to discuss?
I guess on Marvel Day at Sea for in Evolution for like, adults only, they did have this like Ravagers dance party, which was really, really cool and really, really fun. It's just unfortunate that clientele of our cruise was a lot older than we were. So it was kind of just us hanging out in Evolution that night, but it was still really, really cool and really, really fun. And the hosts were trying to, keep the vibes up.
You are the first person I've talked to that has said they brought that back. Because when I did my Marvel Day at Sea, it was still kind of in that post-pandemic era, so they didn't bring that back. And I hadn't heard anyone talk about it coming back recently. So I am actually so excited to hear that that's back.
Yeah, it was really, really cool because even like as people were like assembling, I guess, in like Evolution, like everyone's going to Evolution after like the deck party, they had like Ravagers like hanging around with the people. And then eventually Star-Lord comes out with Gamora and then he's all like, let's get this party started, blah, 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 which was really, really cool.
Love that. Well, overall, how did Marvel Day at Sea kind of fall in your expectations then?
Definitely exceeded my expectations. Like I knew it was going to be big Marvel marathon day where it was just going to be nothing but Marvel. Yeah, just in general, I would say it was very significantly exceeded my expectations with the amount of Marvel that would happen on that day.
Love that. Well, we have discussed quite a bit that you did on the ship, but we do have 2 port stops to talk about. The first one being Cozumel. Did you get off the ship in Cozumel?
Yeah, so we didn't have any excursions booked for Cozumel, but we did get off the ship just to, say that we've gone off the ship and, say that we've been to Mexico. There was a goal of mine that if we were going to go to Mexico, that I would have to have tacos. I would have to have like, real Mexican tacos and then like authentic like guac. And it was also kind of a goal of mine to eat at more of a local place. So like a little bit more farther away from like the touristy part of Cozumel. So we got off the ship. And then my friend also just wanted to get some Mexican pesos because he likes like collecting foreign currency. So we ended up walking pretty inwards into the island. I honestly don't even remember like where we were or how we got to where we were. And then we ended up stopping at this local taco place. I don't even remember the name of it because it was just a complete random stop of ours where we were just walking by and we're like, this smells really good. stop here and eat. And it was good. I got my tacos, I got my guac. So I basically checked off everything that I needed to do on Cozumel. And then of course we also, did a lot of shopping in the pier area.
That is actually a port stop I have never been to. But your next port stop I have been to on several occasions. And I'm sure you were very much looking to get to experience this. Before we get into your Castaway Day, what were you most excited to experience on Castaway?
I guess for Castaway, again, I didn't really have that much like high expectations, listening to podcasts and watching vlogs. It's like there's so many things that can go wrong when it comes to Castaway, like what people say, where it's like, the wind it's too windy. If it's, the weather's not there, then, you're not going to get to go. But I, was hoping to be able to go and especially go to like Serenity Bay, get that, beach day of just pure relaxation.
And how was your day on Castaway then?
I had to sum it up. Actually, I was also making this joke like perfect day at Coco Cay, more like, perfect day at Castaway Cay, because our Castaway Day was just absolutely perfect. Like from the weather to, I think it was only like 70 degrees outside. So it wasn't even that hot. And then it wasn't that windy. And then I've also heard of like horror stories where like you're on the island and you can see the impending storm that's going to make you run back to the ship. And there wasn't even that. It was clear skies. It was perfect. Since we were on the starboard side, we could see, Castaway from our veranda on that morning of. And from just then on, it was like, I knew it was going to be a good day on that day.
I love it. Was there anything else you got up to, or just a lot of rest and relaxation at Serenity?
And so I guess we spent our morning at Serenity Bay, just like hanging out in that area. And then we also, again, met up with our table mate from dinner. And then we were just hanging out there. And then we had lunch at Serenity Bay. And then after lunch, we took the tram back towards the family beach, hung out in like the family beach area just a little bit, looking, seeing pelican plunge and all those things. And it was just really, really cool. And I'm like looking forward to, potentially going there with like, my own kids, because it's a really, really cool spot.
What did you think of lunch at Serenity Bay?
It was really, really good. It was, everyone says like Castaway food is like just your typical barbecue food, burgers and hot dogs, but Serenity Bay specifically, like, what's this? And I was like grabbing it. Ooh, what's this? And I was grabbing it. And then I got like, for some reason, I don't know why I got excited that they like pre-made buns with like lettuce, tomatoes, and then like, all that stuff for a burger. I grabbed one, got a burger, and then by then my plate was already pretty full. And then that's when I figured out that there was other things. There was like chicken and ribs, and then also those made to order steaks. And I was like, what am I going to do? I don't have any room on this plate for all this other good stuff. So then I ended up like eating half of my burger and then going back and then getting like the ribs and then the chicken and then especially that really, really good steak.
Love it. Glad to hear that you had a beautiful day at Castaway. Before we head into disembarkation, was there anything else at either of your port stops or aboard the Dream that you wanted to discuss that you enjoyed, or anything else that happened that you wanted to discuss?
We did a lot of like the pool deck stuff on our port days. So like maybe like on Cozumel Day, we got back on earlier than, the all aboard time. And then we, did Satellite Falls. We did the adult pool deck. Yeah. And then on Toy Day, same thing. We got them a little bit earlier before all aboard after doing an extensive amount of shopping on Castaway Cay. So we got on board early because we really wanted to ride the Aqueduct. Since it was, the last day, we're like, we still haven't rode the Aqueduct. We have to ride the Aqueduct. So then we rode the Aqueduct that day. And then same thing, we went and, did the adult pool area. And then also used, taking advantage of the hot tub with nobody on board because everyone was still out on the island.
Well, was there anything else on board that happened that as first-time cruisers, maybe you weren't expecting, or maybe you thought like, oh, I didn't realize this? Kind of any tips for first-time cruisers that you realized while you were on board?
I guess I would have to say the level of service on the cruise, like you could, expect the level of service, but it's still like mind-blowing the level of service that you get on the cruise from our like room host to our dining team. They really deserve all the tips that you give them, basically. Like you can prepay your tips, which is yes, but when people say that they're always adding more from those prepaid gratuities, I think you will definitely add more to those gratuities because the level of service is just insane.
Love it. Did you have any like highlight cast interactions or any cast members on board that you wanted to shout out to?
So I guess I could start with, giving a shout out to our main server, the one that like really is involved with your table. So like our server, whose name is Christian, who's from the Philippines, and then we're also from the Philippines, so we're hanging out with him. And he was really, really good. He, really got our food to us really, really quickly. I think on our animators day, I mean, we weren't near any of the TVs, so like we weren't really involved with the press show. But I think we left before the show even finished, which was okay with us because we wanted to go continue doing like more activities and trivias and all those things. But he was really, really good at like, getting us our food quick, getting us basically in and out of the dining room so that we can go and enjoy more stuff on the ship. And he was just really, really quick. And we got really, really close to him. We really wanted to get a picture with him at the end of the cruise. And then by the end of it, so like I said, he's Filipino, we're Filipino. In Filipino, there's this term that's known as kuya, which is like older brother. And by the end of the cruise, you were calling him that, which is really, really fun.
I love that so much. That is awesome. Any other cast interactions you wanted to highlight?
Yeah, I guess I would have to also say our room host. His name was Jerson. He was, even though like we were always in and out of our room doing things, it was just everything that he did for our room, which was just amazing. Like he, if our clothes were out, he would fold them and like put them nicely on the table. I think I noticed this at the end of the cruise, but when he does like turn down service, he turns off like the main lights and only the night lights are on. And I didn't even know that they do that. And I didn't realize it until the end of the cruise where I was like, this is nice. Like, I didn't even realize that he's been doing this. And then also like the whole thing with like the cords and then just do like a little cord wrap for your loose cords. It was just insane, the amount of service that they have on Disney Cruise Line.
Well, sadly, all cruises must end. I know you were worried that this might be a one and done experience. Do you think that still holds true for you, or will you find your way back to DCL?
So yeah, it's not going to be a one and done, obviously. So yeah, I was afraid that it was going to be a one and done, which is why I wanted to go all out on this cruise. But it is not going to be a one and done. And I'm actually have a cruise booked next year in January on the Disney Destiny, so the new ship. And I will be going on it with basically like my family, extended family, and then like even more extended family. So like a big family trip.
Love it. Definitely diving more into that Marvel theme as well on the Destiny there.
I think I said in the Facebook group that like I just got off the dream for Marvel Day at Sea, and now I'm actually going to go on the actual Marvel ship at sea.
Since you mentioned the Facebook group, was that something you utilized for this sailing as well?
Yeah, so I used it. I didn't post in it too much, but I will do recommend like for a first time cruiser, it is kind of helpful. But also same thing, don't see what everyone's talking about and be like, oh, I have to do everything.
Yes. Facebook groups, great for information. I am like you. I'm kind of the fly in the wall in the groups. I kind of just watch and look for the useful information. But as first time cruisers, don't get bogged down because everyone will tell you have to experience everything. And you will get so bogged down or discouraged from either not being able to get reservations that people are telling you have to get, or just not having the time to fit everything in on that you can, because they certainly pack the cruises full of activities and fun things to do. Well, sadly, your cruise must end. You head back to Fort Lauderdale. How was your disembarkation process? Did you fly out that day, or how did you get back home?
Yeah, so that day for disembarkation, we actually were going to spend the day and then just a little bit of the next day in Miami. We took just an Uber down from Port Everglades to like the Miami area. And then we just hung out in that area and then we flew out the next day. We did do disembarkation breakfast, which was really, really fun just because we wanted to, have that one last meal with our serving team and then getting to say goodbye. Yeah, I think we were off the I also tried to, I wouldn't say dragging my feet, but, on that disembarkation day, you kind of want to stay on the ship as long as possible before you need to leave.
Yeah, it can definitely be hard sometimes leaving, but definitely eases the pain knowing you have something to look forward to next year. Well, before we close the show out, Kyle, do you have anything else that you want to discuss from this sailing?
Yes. Could I also, for the Marvel Day at Sea, the towel animal, I was not expecting this. Towel animal was Mjolnir, the Thor movies, which I thought was just really, really cool because I was, expecting a towel animal. All of a sudden, there's, I was trying to figure out what it was. I was a little confused at first, and then I realized that it was supposed to be Mjolnir.
Love it. Yeah, again, those Marvel Day at Sea details. Do they still do the window cling as well?
Oh, yeah, I forgot to mention that too. Yeah, they do have like the little Marvel Day at Sea thing that they didn't have on our embarkation day. They actually added it at the night of the night of embarkation day, so you don't see it until the morning. So like the morning of, we opened the blinds to go outside to, just look out in our veranda. And then we were surprised with this really, really cool Model Day at Sea sticker thing that's on the door, which they also, I did not know, they let you take it home, which was really, really cool.
Yeah, I actually still have mine on my window right next to me right now. It's been hanging there for many years. Well, Kyle, sounds like you had just an absolutely magical sailing on board the Disney Dream, enjoying your Marvel Day at Sea. We already discussed what is next for you, so I think it is about time to close out the show. Thank you again so much for coming on.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. It has been a blast nerding out over all the fun Marvel things you can find aboard the ship. But that is going to wrap up the episode. As always, you can follow Christy at Pack Your Pixie Dust and utilize her travel services at packyourpixiedust.com. You can follow me at MouseGen on Instagram and YouTube. And you can follow the podcast at DCL Podcast or DCLpodcast.com. But that's going to wrap up this episode. Thank you all so much for listening, and we will see you next time on the DCL Podcast. Bye, guys. Well, that's going to wrap up the show. Once again, we want to thank Kyle for coming on and sharing his time on the Disney Dream. If you're enjoying the show, we greatly appreciate you leaving us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. We'd also like to thank our Patreons who help make this show happen each and every week for us. You too can help support the show by visiting us at patreon.com/DCL Podcast. Whether you're boarding the cruise, enjoying a trip to the parks, or adventuring outside of Disney, on behalf of myself, Christy, and Steve, we want to wish you smooth sailing and safe travels. And we'll see you next time on the DCL Podcast.
The DCL Podcast is not affiliated with the Disney Cruise Line, Walt Disney Company, Adventures by Disney, or Run Disney. All of the opinions expressed on our shows are those of the hosts and the guests who appear on the show. If you have any questions about any of these products, please contact the Walt Disney Company.